cruise ships. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Very warm welcome. I apologize for the sound. Usually, well, I try to speak a bit louder. Usually there is a wall here, but it collapsed this morning. Maybe they tried to emulate the fall of the Berlin Wall coming down. But anyway, I don't know whether you watch me on YouTube, because I'm very present on YouTube. Maybe you don't know me. This is why we prepared a brief video, a 1-minute video, just to give you an idea, in case you don't know me, what I'm all about. Roll the film.
Ahoi, ich bin Matthias Morr. Auf YouTube bin ich der Schiffstester und ich nehme dich mit auf meinen Reisen mit den tollsten und neuesten Kreuzfahrtschiffen der Welt. Entdecke mit mir die Schiffe und die Länder und ich gebe dir jede Menge Tipps, zum Beispiel wie du günstig an Bord kommst. Sei dabei bei Schiffstaufen auf der ganzen Welt. Und schau dir an, welche Länder du vielleicht auch mal besuchen könntest. Und hol dir Appetit, wenn es um das leckere Essen an Bord geht. Neue Videos gibt es immer am Donnerstag und am Sonntag, also abonniere jetzt meinen Kanal, denn dann verpasst du künftig nichts.
Ja, Sie haben das schon gesehen, ihr habt das.
Well, you guys already watched it. If you subscribe now, well, afterwards I'll do the count and check whether there will be new subscribers. Well, anyway, there's a pub round on me if I get many new subscribers after this presentation. Well, anyway, Schiffstester. Well, when I started 10 years ago, as a matter of fact, I thought, well, the domain is still free and schiffstester.de. Well, I thought, well, it's not a bad name for somebody who wants to test ships and or cruises, and I just downloaded it and tested the water because I thought I like this as a holiday mode. I mean, my first cruise was in 2003, and I first started screening the first videos. I was in a classical media field. I was a radio host and writing for newspaper, so I just started back then. And this story is a story about a business which I've been doing as a day job for about 3 years. It's not something that came about overnight. I started 3 years ago with ship testing. In terms of the dimensions, well, I always like to share the following figure most. The figure I really like to share most is that on YouTube, you have 500 video calls, and that's really surprising. I mean, 500,000 video calls per month, and that's quite impressive if you look at YouTube's volume of 5 million. Is there anybody here where the cruise industry is always very happy when they get a touch point with somebody who's completely new to the cruise business? But it would be so boring if we had 500 people here in this room and I couldn't win any new subscribers. So it's great to see we've got such a potential here in the room. And on top of that, I've got 36,000 Facebook fans. Anyway, I can't see the monitor. That's why I always need to look up. I do 2 videos, one on Thursday, one on Sunday. Let's have a look at the average calls, 465,000 video calls per month, out of 5.6 million video calls in 5.6 video calls in 2017, 150,000 users at YouTube per month. Let's have a look at the growth rate. I've already pointed out the first beginning started 10 years ago, but I've only been doing this as a day job for the past 3 years, and that's to do with the fact that on YouTube you can do a lot, but you need to be able to monetize it. And if you want to do this as a day job, and if you don't have wealthy parents, well, for the past 3 years, I have a main sponsor with Kreuzfahrten.de. And apart from that, you also have ad revenue on YouTube. As you can see here, it's a wonderful growth of the past between 2015 and 2017, we've got a growth rate of 152%. And let's have a look at other players on YouTube. TUI Cruises, for instance, a shipbuilder of a shipping company. Over the past year, you can see the calls here on that screen. And my videos even topped TUI. And I think that's impressive because, I mean, a company which shoots a video fairly often, I mean, every 2 weeks, then can be outperformed by a completely dark horse, an independent content producer. You can still reach the same order of magnitude. And I'm quite impressed, or quite proud. Let me press the clicker. Let's have a look at the top videos. For instance, Ida Primatur, more than 5,000 calls, etc. But people can see that I actually benefit from people invoking videos if we are dealing with strong ship companies. Of course, I go on all ships. I will go on also on a sail cruise in the near future. But I mean, anything to do with AIDA and Mein Schiff is very lucrative for me because these are the two biggest products in Germany. And if I were a tech blogger and did a video on the iPhone, of course that would be much more successful than if I did a video on a company from China which nobody ever heard of. In terms of nomenclature, what are we? In the old days, I would have had a press ID because I was working for the TV, for newspapers and radio. Well, in the old days, I used to be a journalist, and I used to do radio for a long period of time at the NDR. This is where they called me host. Nowadays, well, I'm not wearing my accreditation, but on my accreditation it reads blogger. I think blogger is quite befitting. And when some people don't like blogger, don't like calling themselves blogger, they say I'm a journalist. But for me, blogger is more a positive word, has a positive connotation. So I'm a video blogger, I'm a cruise expert, and professional media sometimes also ask me whether they can get interviews. One term that is missing here is the term that appeared in the announcement, i.e. influencer, in the introduction. Influencer is a term which I heard first 2 years ago when I met with a social media expert from a big ship company, influencer, and I wasn't sure what he was talking about, but so I read it up and I thought about it long and hard. So where's that term coming from? So from my definition, I wouldn't call myself influencer, but in theory, anybody can have an influence on other people. So YouTubers can have an influence on other people or may not have an influence. Sometimes you've got KPIs which give you an idea of whether you are an influencer or not. For instance, whether I'm on a ship on AIDA, I'm contacted very often. People ask me whether they can do a selfie with me. Well, at least that's indicative of the fact that they know me. But the fact is, they know you, but do you influence them? I don't know. And this is where Lars Peters comes in. He's a media scholar. We've known each other for donkey's years. But Lars contacted me the other year and said, well, you know, this influencer thing is the hottest new deal in town. Don't we want to do a study? Don't we really want to find out whether this really influences people? And on that note, I would now like to pass the floor to Lars, who is going to present you the scholarly part of this presentation, where this is like a ping pong, or it's like Wimbledon. I mean, the lively presenter is Matthias, and I'm the number cruncher. I'm doing the boring bit. Anyway, we had a look at Matthias's influence. What's his reach? If he has 150,000 people visiting his videos per month, does that something to them? Does he generate bookings? We conducted a big study and gathered various figures. Well, first of all, what does the demographics look like of such a cruise influencer? Well, usually you think cruise audience, these are gray-haired people, and you're not really sure whether they are more mature than 19. And here you see the average age, 39 years. And as a matter of fact, it covers all age cohorts, anything from the 14-year-old boy up until the 70-year-old, more than 70-plus year olds. But 39, 59 is the main cohort. This is the average age. Well, coming from different countries, and in our understanding, you can see the countries here where this is to do with the fact that they subscribe to the video channel and they logged on with their account. And in the cruise area, it's also not surprising, but also important, i.e. that you have a high purchasing power. Here you can see that 2/3 of respondents, of users, of Matthias users, Matthias's video users, have a household income of more than 3,000 euros. You need that income in order to afford the cruises, which are so beautiful. I just need to check whether I share the right figures, so don't think I'm ignoring you. I need to turn my head around. Anyway, is Matthias somebody whom I peruse and then I forget about it, or is he somebody who has a lasting followership? And here you see the regular visits of his videos. He said, well, he usually has new videos on Thursdays and Sundays, and here we saw that 1 out of 3 people frequently visits him per week, and more than 75% visit weekly or several times a month. And there's not just a few old users who go to visit him, but he has a lot of regular visitors. Now, if you're contemplating going on a cruise for the first time, you Google AIDA or the Mein Schiff, and then very quickly you come across one of Matthias's videos, you check whether you like him, is he interesting, do I want to know more? Then, in that case, you subscribe. Again, it's to do with his personality, do they like him or not? With that business proposition, you are catering to a highly interested cruise audience. 3,000 people were interviewed. And we asked them, are you planning over the next 2 years to go on a cruise? And here, majority said yes, at least one, and 58% even said more than one, 2 or at least 2. And we broke this down further into people who already went on a cruise and people who didn't go on a cruise. So we even have the novices who look into Matthias's videos and then test the water, and they can be tomorrow's cruise customers, so highly attractive audience. What are the main rationales for visiting the videos? Top 2 reasons given here. "84% say because it gives me a good idea of the ships." So we need to picture this. There are videos from the ship companies, their catalogs, other possibilities, and Matthias is like a third neutral party who gives a review and gives people an impression of the ships. And it's very interesting because it's a good information source and they see what different ship companies have to offer. It's very clear and we analyzed it. The information aspect is high on people's priority list. People really want to look into cruises, cruise ships, and the potential cruise. They don't go there because they love Matthias. They go there because they love cruises. So if they go there, do you get a conversion rate? Will they book eventually? And here we have different stages which track the conversion stuff. He gives me information on different cruises, and he says, I get all the information which I look for or which I need. And in theory, it's possible to replace other information sources. He's an important information source, and here it says, his review of a ship is the main reason for my booking. 30% endorsement rate. So if the ship tester says, this is a good trip, this is a good cruise, then 30% of all people actually book this part. And that's really why he merits the name influencer. He really makes a difference. Main sponsor, Kreuzfahrten.de, what's in it for him? For them. And Matthias already pointed out he's been working with this travel agency for a long period of time. Here, 90% already went to Kreuzfahrten.de and about 8% already booked with Kreuzfahrten.de. That's like a reminder, and you can drill deeper. So the conversion rate is there indeed. And what's also very interesting, Matthias is the main influencer, and we also asked respondents, will you be asked for information when it's about matters cruise? And as a matter of fact, many of our users are micro-influencers. So if Matthias gives a positive feedback on a certain cruise, then this has a knock-on effect because 20% of all his users are multipliers and are deemed relevant experts in amongst their family and friends, 90% frequently, etc. So the influencer impact is not just from Matthias on the users, but he also has a knock-on effect because the users themselves are micro-influencers. And Matthias, maybe talk about this aspect. I already mentioned it briefly. When I'm on the ships, on the German ships, many people contact me. On my last trip, I said, why not have an official event? I announced it slightly larger on my channels and 26,000 Facebook fans, etc. And here, there's a small line, meet and greet with Matthias Morr, and here you see the studio. And as a matter of fact, there were, lo and behold, 80 people. And initially I thought, okay, we just went on the cruise an hour ago. It's 3 o'clock, 31 degrees outside. There's premium galore. Every drink is free. Okay, we had champagne, we had bubbly. But anyway, that was so impressive, the turnout rate. 80 people came to visit, to meet and greet me. And how people handle it was so impressive too. It feels it's almost a family feeling. I don't want to exaggerate, but sometimes it's even small kids who come up to me, and especially when it's a Sunday appointment. I mean, usually I air the video at 8 a.m. and people watch it over breakfast, and you kind of feel like family. And getting those vibes is just incredible. I already mentioned it. I'm from a classical media field. And I was born in 1976. I grew up in an age when people said, well, if you want to do media, you need to go and work for the local newspaper. And I think it's so fascinating to see all the various areas in which you can become active. You can really make a difference as an individual. You have a massive reach and can spur them into action. And very often people talk about influencer to me, and they're surprised when I say I'm an influencer, and they don't tend not to believe me because I'm more than 30 years of age, or, you know, YouTubers in general tend to be younger. But anyway, age doesn't really make a difference. You can really make a splash even if you're twice as old as the typical YouTube user. You don't necessarily need to do something in a beauty salon in order to be a successful YouTuber in a niche. Here you see how you can spur people into action, how you can accompany them up until the booking process and increase conversion rate. So here we zoomed in and had a look at the typical influencer properties which may pertain to Matthias. Why does it work so well? Competent, trustworthy, and entertaining. These are important aspects. And we zoomed in and had a closer look why Matthias is so compelling. First of all, we saw that people want to find out information. They are basically interested in cruises, and this is why professional information has to be shared. As a small influencer, you can start on a small scale, but if you want to reach a relevant scale and relevant order of magnitude, you need to work in a professional way. You need to be trustworthy. You shouldn't disappoint people, but you also need to be able to criticize and praise. And what's good with Matthias is that he worked as a video journalist, and his videos are based on a very sound camera system, etc. So professionalism is the be-all and end-all. Well, I don't want to dishearten anyone. I don't want to say shouldn't be too professional, because then it will lack authenticity. So it's always Goldilocks approach. And something else people believe is that Matthias is an expert. So just claiming to be an expert is not enough. I mean, you need to be able to walk the talk, to know what's happening in the market. So Matthias is still, this is still amongst the top 2 reasons. So important source of information. He gives me all the relevant information. So definitely people believe that he is an expert. But he's not aloof. He's not the scientific expert who is sitting in an ivory tower, but he communicates at eye level with the users, and he's doing precisely the same thing that users are going to do during their cruise. And he has lots of touch points, social media, Facebook, and this goes to explain why his post has such a great degree of feedback, of comments, and definitely this is one of the success factors. People always say that we have a declining reach of Facebook pages. Maybe this may apply to classical brand, but me as an individual brand, quote unquote, who interacts with people, who is like a person at eye level, somebody who can't endorse this declining reach. And there's so much interaction, so much discussion. So I think customization is really an important aspect here. And here, I don't know whether somebody's here from destination marketing organizations, but I can tell you this much. Personalization really helps a lot, especially as a brand. Many people don't dare to do that, to bank on individuals. They say, well, I will rely too much on a single ambassador if I bank on individuals. But it really works. And you're approachable. People can reach out to you. 84% of your followers say that you give good feedback on comments, and etc. And it's really easy to contact you when you're on a cruise, because you go to cruises yourselves. Maybe this is just to give you a pie chart of relevant aspects that influencers should bring to the table. In the case of Matthias, he really meets these criteria, and as a result of that, it leads to a high conversion rate. Now, it looks very busy, this chart, but don't you worry. We will walk you through this. So we have, let's recap. We've got a wide group of age cohorts, very young, very old, and they look into cruises and want to gain online information on cruises. And we ask them, what are the relevant sources for you, well, as part of booking a cruise? And you may say, well, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, professional videos is highest at the top of the list, and it can be Matthias, but it can be shipping companies or other companies, or blogs. And 70% say very important, and the personal recommendation of a family and friend, word of mouth. Social media platform is ranked next. And magazines and newspapers in the classical sense, hard copies, the classical journalists, are nice to have, but they're not the most important influences if you want to get information on whether you want to book a cruise or not. And the audience are onliners who adopt a more or broader approach. The onliners aren't the declining target group, but they're an increasing target group. You can see it very well here. The various target groups. So the online information, the online channel is incredibly important, and his website or the information is regarded as professional and very expert. Let's recap the findings from our survey and from the feedback from Matthias. What are the three core takeaways which you should take home messages? First of all, online videos are becoming ever more important as a source of information. And when it comes to cruises, it's a growing market, and people going on cruises. And skills, entertainment, communication, etc. That's very important. And you notice that in this presentation, he's very good at communicating. I can't endorse that, Matthias is saying. Well, I'm an analyst, and he can present facts in an entertaining manner. And talking to people at eye level, I mean, these are key characteristics which create a high confidence rate that increases reach, high interaction, high activation and conversion rate, which is exactly what we want to achieve. We worded it as a hypothesis here. Influencers assume the advisory function of formal travel agencies, so the people with a high online affinity, gain information here. So what do influencers do? What do ship testers do? That is an important question, and they have a good conversion rate. And nonetheless, there's still many users who just get inspiration from you, get information, and then go to the classical travel agency. Well, first, we can put it this way. I provide advice, but after my advice, people then go to the brick-and-mortar travel agency. So travel agencies have less work than in the olden days, but then can benefit from the conversion rate. But anyway, it's a good thing. And people get in-depth information online through review platforms, also through YouTube, invest a lot of time in order to rest assured that they will choose the right product, the perfect product. And that's an important point. Whenever I spend a lot of money, I want to make sure that I get what I want to get. Okay, what you want to get is what you get. I mean, you can go to schiffstester.de and you get information on cruises. This brings us to the end of our presentation up front, and we're happy for you to pick up brains.